Hello and welcome to another episode of the Confident Musician Show. You are tuning into 5 pro tips on nothing I ever do is good enough. I am your host, Brett Cusack, aka Mega Love, and I'm a musician and confidence coach, and I do a bunch of other things too: songwriting, music lessons, collaboration events, heaps of cool stuff. But without further ado, let's jump into our 5 pro tips on nothing I do is ever good enough. Say g'day if you're watching online live. Say g'day if you're watching on the replay as well. And we're going to jump into our 5 pro tips for nothing I do is ever good enough. Alrighty. Number 1 is to let go of all of the comparisons that you are creating in your world. There is no competition to the real you, so you want to make sure you're staying in your own lane and keep learning and growing. So if you're experiencing this thing that nothing you do is ever good enough, it's because you're comparing yourself to somebody else who isn't you, and they have a bunch of priority list. They have a priority list and a value system that is helping them do that thing, and which you do not have. So let go of the comparison, stay in your own lane, and keep learning and growing and doing what it is that you love. Tip number 2 is, in whose eyes are you not good enough? So what we want to do here is we want to learn how to integrate any perceived traits, because when we're comparing ourselves to somebody else, and if we're thinking that we're not good enough in relation to somebody else, is because we have them on a pedestal. And this process of integration is to look at this thing that we're disowning in another human being and bring them down and us up so that we're actually on more of a level playing field. And generally, if we're not good enough, it's either our heroes or our parents or grandparents or older siblings or people that we admire in our field of work or music, whatever it might be. So what we want to do is we want to learn to integrate their perceived positive traits. So whatever it is, we write it down on a piece of paper. Great singer, amazing performer, amazing songwriter, amazing film clips, whatever it is. And we go, where do I have that in my own unique way to the same degree? And if someone's an amazing singer and you're a guitarist and you're admiring their vocal ability, you might go, where and who sees me be an amazing musician? So we want to make sure that we're acknowledging that the thing that we admire most in another person, we have, but it's going to be always in relation to what is important to us. And then what we do is we write down in who, where, and when sees me do that. So for me, for instance, I might admire somebody who has an amazing voice. And then I have done many singing lessons. So I'm like, wow, all of my students look up to me and go, wow, Brett, that's so amazing. You can sing in tune. I'm like, yep. So I have all these amazing people looking up at me. And then by acknowledging that I have an amazing ability, or maybe it's to do with coaching or mentoring or whatever it is that people see me do to that amazing degree and as the same degree. So as I start to acknowledge my own amazing skills and traits, I start to see my self-worth start to rise, and then I'm less likely to then feel not good enough in relation to another human being. And nobody out there in the world is more important than you. They just have a different value system, and they've maybe worked longer and harder than you at whatever it is that they're doing, but that's their thing. That's what they want to be able to do. And you probably most likely want to or have a different set of priorities, and you want to acknowledge your own version of those because you're you, and if you're comparing yourself to somebody else, that's never going to be fun. Say g'day if you're online live. Let us know where you're tuning in from. All right, tip number 3 is, are you being impatient? One of my coaches and mentors said this to me, and I was like, ouch. So, do you have any unrealistic expectations that you should be further along in your journey? So if you're comparing yourself to Taylor Swift or Ed Sheeran or whoever it might be, all of your favorite artists, Taylor Swift had written 150 songs by the time she was 17 or 19. Check it out. It's in her documentary. And I say this story every time, and I always say 17 or 19. I don't know which one it is. But the truth of the matter is that she was truly focused on making amazing music. And probably playing songs and performing and testing those songs and seeing whether they were actually any good. So you want to make sure that you're identifying that you're comparing yourself to somebody else who is much further along in their journey. So are you being impatient? And just acknowledge where you're at in your journey. Like if you've just started learning guitar, your songwriting is probably not going to be very good. And if you just started learning songwriting, your songwriting is probably still not going to be very good. But then you get pretty far along in your songwriting journey, and then your performing is not that great. And then your performing starts to get good, but you actually have no idea how to market. So just acknowledge where you are, and if it doesn't feel like it's good enough, it's probably because you're just being impatient. All right, tip number 4 is learn to value your own unique gifts. You are the only person that can give you the validation, acknowledgement, and love you deserve. You're never going to get it on the outside of you if you haven't found it on the inside first. Because we all know plenty of famous musicians who all feel like they're still not good enough and they're internationally successful. Type some names in the chat box if you can acknowledge that there are some people way super successful that you're kind of confused, like, hang on a minute, that's how I feel. But you might be at a different level. So learning to value your own unique gifts and your own unique way of seeing the world is the most important thing that you can do. And learning to love and validate and acknowledge who you uniquely are yourself, not trying to get it out of another human being, is one of the most important things that you can do. So tip number 5 is to get a coach or a mentor who can actually help you learn how, if you do not know how to do this yet. That's why I've created my latest course, which is called Confidence and Happiness Secrets for Musicians, which you can get on the link below this video. It has a whole bunch of 60-minute masterclasses, how to master time management, how to avoid procrastination, how to write songs that stand out. There's about $1,800 worth of value in there, and you can get it now for about $7 US, so it's about $10. But I don't know how long it's going to be at that price, so make sure you grab a copy right now. Alrighty, let's recap our 5 pro tips. Number 1 is to let go of any comparisons. If you're comparing yourself to another human being, that is incredibly frustrating because they're not you and you're you. So just be you and focus on being better at being you, and eventually, as you develop consistency and then develop confidence in yourself, you'll start to become self-evident, and you won't need to worry about anybody else because you're just doing you. And, at the end of the day, you're probably still going to do that because it's part of life, and just learning to appreciate that as part of your journey. Tip number 2, in whose eyes are you not good enough? Learn how to integrate their perceived positive traits. And if you do need to know how to do this, please reach out to me. I can help you to do it. Just acknowledging whatever it is that you see in somebody else is just a reflection of you. And so when you write that down, say they're an amazing vocalist, then write down who sees you be an amazing vocalist. And then if you can't really you can't see anybody else, you can't acknowledge anybody else for being an amazing vocalist, see and acknowledge where somebody sees you just be amazing for anything, and start to acknowledge that you are amazing to the same degree just in your own value system. It could be being a mum, it could be making cakes, it could be playing guitar, it could be songwriting, it could be painting, whatever it might be. So learning to acknowledge and integrate somebody's perceived positive traits. Tip number 3 is, are you being impatient? Do you have unrealistic expectations that you should be further along your journey? Because you can't be further along your journey because you aren't. And it's happened the way that it is because that's the way that it's happened. It couldn't have happened any other way because it didn't. So just starting to acknowledge that you're exactly where you are, and the reason that you're here is because of all the decisions and actions and perceptions that you currently have. Tip number 4 is learn how to value your own unique gifts. You are the only person that can give you the validation, acknowledgement, and love you deserve. And if you still feel like nothing you ever do is good enough, there's probably something happening underneath the surface that you are probably trying to keep underneath the surface and not let anybody see it. And if you do feel like that and you would like some help with it, that's why I've created my latest training, which you can grab on the link below this video. And if online courses are not your thing, that's totally cool too. You can also book a quick 15-minute Q&A with me, and we can have a chat about what is happening, and I can see whether I can help you along your journey. And I help people with songwriting, networking, collaboration events, music lessons. I help people with production for their songs. I help people with their songwriting, and I also do mindset coaching and life coaching to help you understand what some of the problems behind the problems are. So book a call with me on the link below this video. It's free. It takes 15 minutes just for us to have a quick conversation about what your challenges are, where you would love to go, and then we can get you sorted in the direction of your dream. Alrighty, thanks so much. If you know somebody who needs some help with learning how to overcome. Nothing that they ever do is ever good enough. Please share this with them. Send it to them via a DM or tag them in this video. I'm sure they would really appreciate learning some new skills and starting to understand that maybe there's some stuff happening that they don't know. And if you love this, please let me know in the comments what you found interesting, unique, or valuable. And until next time, enjoy this, make music, make a difference, and I'll see you on the next video. Catch you later. Bye-bye.